Huanggang Village in Shenzhen is widely recognized as a wealthy village, and it used to be famously known as the Mistress Village. Back in the day, the village was full of beautiful women. Their boyfriends were mostly businessmen, white-collar workers, and truck drivers who traveled between Hong Kong and Shenzhen. At its peak, Huanggang Village had around 50,000 mistresses. The village was packed with massage parlors, karaoke bars, nightclubs, and other places associated with the sex industry, earning it the nickname a paradise for Hongkongers. However, in recent years, as Hong Kong's economy has declined, the once popular trend of keeping mistresses has gradually faded. Huanggang Village is separated from Hong Kong by just a river. Although it's called a village, it's essentially in the heart of the city. This village, with a history of over 700 years, is now known as one of the most affluent urban villages. The village gate is decorated with intricate dragon carvings on stone pillars, with lions standing guard in front, creating a luxurious atmosphere. Even from a distance, you can't help but marvel at the grandeur that sets it apart from other urban villages. In the 1990s, Shenzhen took advantage of its proximity to Hong Kong, leveraging special policies and incentives during China's reform and opening up era. As a result, a large number of Taiwanese, Hong Kong, and foreign enterprises came to invest and build factories in Shenzhen. With capital flowing in, many investors and business people from Taiwan and Hong Kong followed. Shenzhen, as a special economic zone and the forefront of reform, also attracted thousands of migrant workers, including many young and beautiful girls. These girls mostly came from rural areas. Some were quite simple and used to a hard life, making them easier to get along with. They carried the burden of supporting their families at a young age. At the time, wages and prices in Shenzhen were relatively low. Wealthy men from Hong Kong could spend between 4,000 to 8,000 Hong Kong dollars to keep a young woman in an urban village. Soon, the trend of keeping mistresses spread throughout Shenzhen. The so-called mistress villages were residential areas where wealthy men kept their mistresses. During China's rapid economic growth, some businessmen and officials would secretly establish such homes on the outskirts of the city to hide from their wives. These urban villages became a special community and were seen as symbols of indulgent lifestyles. Huanggang Village is near the Huanggang port, which was a key crossing point between Shenzhen and Hong Kong. A certain flashy group of people regularly passed through this port. They wore large gold chains, carried bulky cell phones, and spoke Mandarin with a Hong Kong accent. They frequented the most upscale restaurants in Huanggang Village, often accompanied by young, beautiful women. As this lavish lifestyle expanded, certain residential developments in Shenzhen's Luohu district, like Yijing Garden and Jinglu Garden, became known for their high concentration of mistresses. In the mid-1990s, Shenzhen's central area shifted westward to the Futian district, and areas like Changsha Village, Shazhui Village, and Shuiwei Village became favored hotspots for Hong Kongers to hide their mistresses. The widespread and open practice of keeping mistresses was arguably unparalleled in Chinese communities. According to Hong Kong anthropologist Professor Tan Xiaowei, by the late 1990s, 1 in 6 Hong Kong men working in mainland China had a mainland wife. Not all of these men were big bosses. Some were ordinary workers earning tens of thousands of Hong Kong dollars per month. Hong Kong, as a port city, served not only as a central hub for economic and trade exchanges between mainland China and the West, but also as a link connecting mainland China and Taiwan. At the time, Hong Kong was one of the top free trade ports in the world, and a global logistics center, with the advantage of being a duty-free port. It had one of the busiest container terminals globally, and various service industries flourished as a result. Hong Kong's container truck drivers and taxi drivers were already earning over 10,000 Hong Kong dollars a month. Huanggang Port became the busiest border crossing for both passengers and freight in China, and it was also the first to operate 24 hours a day. With trucks frequently traveling between Hong Kong and Shenzhen, a trend of men keeping mistresses in Shenzhen emerged. In the evenings, areas near Huanggang Port, such as Huanggang and Changsha Village, would be lined with large container trucks parked along the roadside, as drivers headed to their love nests to meet their mistresses. Back then, diligent Hong Kong truck drivers could earn around 30,000 Hong Kong dollars a month, which was incredibly tempting for young women from other provinces who came to Shenzhen for work. These women, who often worked overtime and only earned around 1,000 yuan a month, were drawn to the possibility of a much higher income. What's surprising is that the mistress industry became completely open, with no taboos around either seeking a sponsor or being a sponsor. Some Hong Kong businessmen even openly recruited lovers, and the mistress industry adopted a referral system. A woman who had already become the mistress of a Hong Kong man would recommend her cousins or close friends when she knew that her lover's friends were also looking for someone in the mainland. These women, often matched by their hometown friends, quickly became mistresses to Hong Kong truck drivers. The men would rent a place close to the border and provide their mistresses with around 4,000 to 5,000 Hong Kong dollars a month for living expenses. Aside from waiting for the drivers to come back for a short rest, the daily routine for these women consisted of shopping, playing mahjong with their friends, and comparing who received the most money from their patrons. Many Hong Kong businessmen, especially those involved in the jewelry and clothing trades, also followed this trend and started maintaining second homes in Shenzhen. Over time, not only rural women, but also female university students became a primary source of mistresses. It was a well-known fact that female university graduates faced employment difficulties, especially since many companies discriminated against women. Some of these students, burdened by student loans and struggling with financial difficulties at home, felt immense pressure to find a job quickly. If they couldn't, the impact on them was significant. Whether they were working-class women or university students, their goal was the same: to make money quickly, improve their lives, and support their families. When they couldn't achieve that through conventional means, becoming a mistress seemed like a natural alternative. At that time, the mistress industry in Shenzhen had already become well organized, symbolizing a certain sense of fashion and trendiness. Hong Kong media even gave Shenzhen the name Mistress City. Mistresses in Shenzhen generally fell into two categories. The first was the long-term type, where the woman's Hong Kong boyfriend was usually older, and there was a more established emotional bond between them, making the relationship relatively stable. The second was the short-term type, where the relationship only lasted around a year or so, resembling more of a cohabiting boyfriend-girlfriend situation. Typically, when the man stopped showing up or refused to pay for her upkeep, the woman would break up with him, sell off everything in the house, end the lease, and either leave Shenzhen or find another man to support her. According to a report by Phoenix TV, there were as many as 50,000 mistresses in Huanggang Village alone. Other areas like Bagualing, Hongwei Road, and Xinzhou were also densely populated with mistresses. In other parts of Guangdong, such as Zhangmutou in Dongguan, the number of mistresses reached a peak of 120,000. It's estimated that there were at least 300,000 mistresses in Shenzhen. Many Hong Kong men chose to have their mistresses settle down in these areas, and if you talk to these women, they would all say the same thing: "In a couple of years, my child's father will arrange for his Hong Kong residency." Adi, a young woman from rural Hubei, saw her allowance from her Hong Kong boyfriend increase from 8,000 yuan a month to 20,000 yuan. She kept herself well-groomed, visited beauty salons for manicures, enjoyed afternoon tea, played mahjong with friends, and spent her evenings watching movies or chatting online. She had a comfortable place to live, and her job was simple. She only needed to spend 4 or 5 nights with her boyfriend each month. Every time they met, he would also give her gifts like bags, shoes, or cosmetics. For Adi, who had never finished middle school and lacked any real skills, this lifestyle left her feeling content. One girl once said, "Working in a factory means laboring for over 12 hours a day, barely earning a few hundred yuan. Living with a Hong Kong man means no work and no worries about life. What's wrong with that?" As the phenomenon of being a mistress became more common, the mistress villages flourished, coinciding with Hong Kong's golden age of economic growth. The community in these villages became increasingly complex, with relationships becoming more transactional. Take Xiaoling, for example. She stopped her education after middle school and heard that she could make good money in Shenzhen. To support her family, she followed her fellow villagers to Guangdong to work. At first, she worked in a factory and lived in a dormitory, but soon she moved out. She met a wealthy Hong Kong businessman who claimed to be single and said that she was lonely from working abroad. Xiaoling, young and inexperienced, fell for his sweet talk and became his mistress. Later, she found out that he had a wife and daughter in Hong Kong. Even though she realized that she had been deceived, she couldn't give up the comfortable life. The businessman promised Xiaoling that if she could give him a son, he would give her a lump sum of 300,000 yuan, a huge amount at the time. The condition was that the child would be raised by his wife in Hong Kong, and Xiaoling would not see the child again. If it were a daughter, she would receive 80,000 yuan, but the child would still go to the wife. Xiaoling accepted, reasoning that even after 10 or 20 years of hard work, she couldn't earn that kind of money. After Xiaoling gave birth to a daughter, the businessman quickly arranged to send the child to Hong Kong. It wasn't until Xiaoling experienced the pain of being separated from her child that she realized what sort of deal she made. She begged the businessman to let her keep the baby until the child's first month, but he refused and transferred the promised money to her. He also told her to disappear immediately, warning that if she continued to bother him, her reputation would be ruined. Xiaoling then realized that she would never see her child again, and the businessman ruthlessly abandoned her. Many women in the Mistress Villages had experiences similar to Xiaoling's. Some didn't have children, but their stories often ended in sadness. After China joined the World Trade Organization, it became closer to Western countries, and the incomes in mainland China started rising. Real estate prices continued to climb, and the pressure of high costs discouraged Hong Kong men from keeping mistresses in Shenzhen. Nowadays, Hong Kong's economic growth has been dragged down by the mainland's economic slowdown and tensions between China and the U.S. Foreign investments in Hong Kong are rapidly withdrawing, and Hong Kong's status as an international financial center continues to decline. Former mistresses either sell off their possessions and look for other wealthy men to support them, or return to the workplace. They are like a form of property attached to their patrons, always at risk of being discarded. One woman who had been a mistress to 4 different Hong Kong men said, "Now, Hong Kong men have no conscience when it comes to mistresses. Because of the economic downturn, they don't offer lifelong support anymore. It's become more like a monthly rental arrangement." In recent years, you hardly see Hong Kong drivers in Huanggang anymore. Industry insiders say that Hong Kong drivers can no longer afford to spend money in the mainland. Their annual income has dropped to around 200,000 Hong Kong dollars, which doesn't match the rising cost of living. It's hard enough for them to visit their mistresses twice a month, given they spend over 12 hours a day on the road. Many rely on garlic to stay awake just to maintain their income. Hong Kong's truck drivers are just one example of industries that were once thriving but have now fallen into decline. Today, Huanggang Village has lost its former bustle. If you walk around asking about mistresses, only the older generation still remembers the old stories. Most people have forgotten the secrets of the past. Standing at the archway of Huanggang Village and looking out, the streets are now filled with busy office workers. The Mistress Village has become a thing of the past. Economic factors have played a role in the rise and fall of the Mistress Villages. Among Hong Kong's economic decline, Shenzhen's Mistress Villages are gradually being swept away by the tides of change. One could say that while Hong Kong is in decline, Shenzhen's future may not be so different. The cost of maintaining a mistress is far beyond the reach of ordinary people. However, for China's corrupt officials and wealthy individuals, it's not an issue. In fact, even across the ocean in Los Angeles, there are similar mistress villages. In the hills east of Los Angeles lies an area filled with villa-style residential neighborhoods. As you drive up the mountain roads, you'll see rows upon rows of mansions, surrounded by vibrant gardens. This is Roland Heights. It's said that wealthy Chinese businessmen and officials spend millions to buy luxury homes here under the guise of managing the villas, allowing their mistresses to live there openly. These rich and powerful men can't visit often, usually coming only once a year for 10 days to 2 weeks before returning to China. For the rest of the year, the mistresses are left alone in these grand homes. These women not only live in luxury homes and drive expensive cars, but they also have little to occupy their time. During the day, they go shopping, eat out, buy clothes, get their hair done, and visit beauty salons. This has led to the booming success of Chinese restaurants, beauty salons, clothing stores, and video shops in the Roland Heights area. In the evenings, the mistresses often gather to play cards or even stay up all night playing mahjong. The mistresses tend to share similar backgrounds, experiences, and hobbies, so they like to stick together, having plenty in common to talk about and helping each other out. As a result, they buy homes close to one another, and over time, the Mistress Village formed, gaining a reputation among the local Chinese community. The presence of so many mistresses can be seen at Los Angeles International Airport, where every day Chinese women are anxiously waiting at the arrival gates for flights from China. When an older man emerges, one of the young women will rush to meet him, taking his arm and heading off in a Mercedes or BMW towards Roland Heights. These mistresses share another common trait. They're all young and beautiful. Some of them are even singers or actresses, but time catches up with everyone. Over time, some mistresses have fought with the legal wives for their husbands and succeeded in becoming the official wife. Others have remarried and become someone else's wife. For those who didn't marry or didn't want to, they sold their homes for a profit and moved into cheaper properties. In recent years, Los Angeles real estate has been booming, with prices rising year after year. These mistresses have accumulated wealth over time, and the departure of the men no longer worries them. For corrupt CCP officials, keeping mistresses has become a badge of honor, and having a mistress has even become a trend in official circles. Statistics show that 95% of corrupt officials who have been investigated had mistresses or kept second wives.